Hey guys, thanks for joining us live. Today, Andrew and I are going to be talking to you about using acceptance and how to make connections last. Because shifting expectations, to stop sabotaging relationships is something very important that we all might have to do from time to time. And if you're joining us live or catching the replay, please feel free to say hi, type something down in the comments below. We love interacting with you guys as we go through this process. So, hi Kaden. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Zach Bowles. I'm a certified professional coach, and this is my partner Andrew Sartori. He's a functional health and wellness expert and mentor. Adrian says, hey y'all. Hey.
Hi Adrian.
Hey Art. So together, Andrew and I, we work with gay men whose fears or old habits may be sabotaging potential relationships. We help them build the relationships that they've always wanted and stay passionately in love. And we together work in a business called Gay Man Thriving. And today we want to talk about how important it is to have an open mind when you're in the dating process. I mean, I want to make it really clear first off the bat that it's important to have standards. It's important to have an idea of the type of person that you want to be with. It's really important to visualize what that would be like to be in that type of relationship so you can attract it into your life. But at the same time, it's also really important to be mindful, especially when the chemistry is there with someone you're meeting, that there may be a few things you might want to overlook. Hey BJ, hey Dennis.
Hi guys. Yeah, hey Dennis, hey BJ. Yes, and something a lot of you probably know by now is it's really important to accept yourself and feel really confident in yourself so you can really be open to attracting a great guy. And that's something we talk a lot about and something that's really important, and there's a lot behind that. But today we're going to talk more about being more accepting of the other person as well, and even accepting quirks or even pet peeves that they might show that you actually would not rather have, in your ideal guy that you'd want to be with.
Exactly. And the first thing that we're going to talk about in this area is, how practicing acceptance is not the same thing as settling. We talk to so many gay men whose potential relationships only last from a few weeks to a few months. And there could be a really big pattern going on that you might not be aware of. And it's something that we want to talk to you guys about today. Hey Nikki, hey Josh, hey Troy. So, because this can be a very big potential pattern of unrealistic expectations. Yeah, so we want to talk to you guys about flaws or deal breakers. Most people have an ideal image in their head of that perfect person that they want to be with. So, yeah, if any of you have a perfect mate in their head, type yes down below. If you have an image of your idealized guy, your idealized partner. This video is really targeted to all you single guys out there. But just want to tell you, newsflash, that ideal person does not exist. And when you meet someone for the very first time, it's easy to project a fantasy onto them of who you want them to be and who you think they are, and you build all these fantasies in your head of this person that you're with and all these things, but it's not necessarily who they really are. Because when you meet someone for the very first time, and I think we all do this, we all want to put our best foot forward. We all want to make a good first impression, and we usually show up, carefully being our best self. And after a week or two or a few weeks of getting to know someone, it's very common for us to kind of drop our guard, let our guard down, and kind of drop that facade of us being that perfect person. And when that initial facade is broken, our ego may be telling us, oh my God, red lights going off. This isn't the person who I thought it was. And they might let the tiniest little thing become a deal breaker and push away and think, oh, I've got to find that perfect person who has no flaws. But newsflash, we all have flaws. There's things about us that might be annoying to other people, but it's important to look at the beauty and the gold in that person as well, because sometimes that can be really easily overlooked. Robert says, hey. Steven says, hey, Zach and Andrew. Thanks for the love, guys.
Yeah, love you guys, Steven, Christopher. Good to see y'all.
So a good example of this is when Andrew and I met. Actually, we, as you might have known from other videos and us talking, that we're very different in a lot of ways. And things that I didn't know about Andrew when we first started dating was I had no idea what a messy guy this guy is. I really didn't know that he loves to leave his socks and clothes on the floor. When he makes a meal, he likes to leave, or unintentionally leaves everything out on the counter, leaves papers, like there's no telling where something in his hands may end up. Andrew was brushing his teeth while he was watering the plants last week, and I walked into the living room and saw his toothbrush just sitting on the TV stand and was just like, how did this even happen? But, I could have let that be a deal breaker because I'm a really neat person. I'm really clean, and that's important to me. But because I also am aware of the love and the gold and the value of our relationship, I also am very aware that those things can really easily be overlooked.
Yeah, and people are unique, and I'm a very unique person, and I knew that when I started dating Zach, and it's just funny looking back, like after we were together for a year, just talking to him, I bet this last year probably was nothing like you probably imagined. You had no idea what you were getting in for.
Right, but it probably goes for both of us.
Yeah, and it does. It goes for both of us, because I know, same when I met Zach, some things that I was really excited about and idealized over was, oh wow, he is so into this Byron Katie book I recommended to him, and he's just picking it up and reading it. He's so excited to learn. And when we would hang out in my living room, I actually didn't have a TV because I personally try to not watch much TV at all. And I just had this vision of, oh, we'll just be reading in the evenings by candlelight, reading the same books and sharing. And as we went on, it turned out that's not what Zach wanted. And he's, like most people, preferred to watch TV in the evenings. And it might have made me, I allowed it to frustrate me at first, but it was something I definitely got over and learned to accept and love and appreciate how our evenings are.
Right. And yeah, so it goes for both of us. We both, are overlooking things, but we also love each other tremendously. Which brings us to our second point. What you could be missing out on, because if you're not willing to overlook a few things like Andrew and myself, then there's a really good chance that you're always going to be lonely, because there's no perfect human out there. Because conditional love does not work in successful relationships. Andrew and I practice unconditional love, and that means loving each other for our differences, practicing acceptance. Because when I think about what I could be missing out on, if I focused on your messiness, or the fact that you might be kind of a workaholic where having fun is really important to me, hence the loving to watch TV and other things, I'd be missing out on the amazing connection that we share, the amazing support that I get from you, how I feel like you bring out the best in me, and I love you unconditionally. It makes me so happy to be in this relationship, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, including not having socks and dirty clothes on the floor, because it would be crazy if I let those little things get in the way. But so often gay men can think they have these deal breakers and allow it to really get in the way of what could be a potential beautiful relationship. And again, I want to iterate, there's a difference between overlooking small flaws and being in an abusive or toxic relationship, because that's something you want to get out of. It can really affect you. And it's okay to just say, hey, we don't do the same dance, let's be friends. But when it's small things like, catching someone picking their nose or biting their fingernails or just doing little things that you don't necessarily approve of, it can be in your very best interest to choose to overlook these things and love them despite those things that they might be doing.
Yeah, so that's really important to think about. If you're not accepting someone, what might you be missing out on? Because there might come times, especially at the beginning of the relationships, after the kind of the goo goo gaga phase starts to end, where you really start to get to know someone, even for their shortcomings. And it can be really easy to say, oh crap, I didn't see this coming, I don't like this about this guy, I better leave this and go find someone else who's not going to give me this problem. And if you keep doing that, then you're going to be searching endlessly and ultimately never be able to find someone where you can feel truly satisfied with. And just always be wondering, when you are dating someone, oh, is there someone else out there that might be better than this, that doesn't have this or this challenge, so it can just be easier and better for me.
Hi, Karen Kinney.
It's not a good place to be. Yeah, hi Karen.
She
hey
says,
Steve.
the goo goo gaga phase.
And yes, and just as a reminder, there really is no perfect match. Probably the fantasy, the idea of the perfect relationship that you might have in your head right now, I'm not saying this to be negative, it probably doesn't exist.
Right.
But it's also probably maybe even better than you're imagining, because we both feel like we've got that.
Right. I feel like I hit the jackpot big time, and I feel like we help balance each other out really well. I shine where Andrew might not have the biggest strengths, and vice versa. It's kind of the best of both worlds, and we're also learning tolerance and acceptance by having these big differences. I think it's really important to keep those things in mind.
Yeah, and the last thing we want to talk about in this area of accepting others and maybe overcoming differences is that in a relationship, you're either going to be growing together or you're going to be growing apart.
Right.
So just as individuals, I'm a big believer that if we're not growing, we're dying, because we need to grow, spiritually, emotionally as human beings to feel satisfied in our lives. But same in relationships. If you're not growing together, you're going to grow apart. And these little areas of friction, maybe where you're not accepting at first, that's an opportunity for growth. That's, if something's triggering something inside of you, then it's, okay, I gotta look within and see what's this about, and learn to, instead of choosing fear, resistance, and anger, switching over to peace, so that it's another area for y'all to grow together, which has happened to us so many times, but it takes swallowing the ego and choosing acceptance.
Exactly, because our ego can just really steer us in the wrong direction, and we don't even realize it. That's why it's got to be really important not to let that happen. Karen says, you two are really great at helping single gay men heal themselves so they can attract awesome relationships. Thanks, Karen. That's definitely something we love being able to do. And just to kind of summarize everything we've talked about today, the biggest lesson here is, if you're letting pet peeves or superficial flaws turn you off from someone, you may be really in for a rough, bumpy, lonely road. And I think one of the best tools that you can use if you find something like this happening is, the next time you notice that you might be getting annoyed with someone that you just started dating or someone you just began a relationship with, it's important to ask yourself, is this something really worth holding against this guy? And what potentially may he be overlooking or putting up with that I might be doing?
Yeah, so really great thing to think about and look within and start choosing that acceptance a lot more. And that's just one thing. There are tons of blocks that cause a lot of gay men especially to stay single and not get that relationship they've always wanted. And this is one quick idea and quick tool. But if you have fears and old habits that are really keeping you stuck, keeping you single, type in thriving below, and one of us will reach out to you and we can talk about how you can overcome that so you can ultimately have the relationship of your dreams. And maybe not the relationship of your dreams, but something even better than you can imagine right now. Because like we talked about in this video, that fantasy, that idealized fantasy is not what you think it is. And so we hope this was helpful, and if you would like more information on this and you really know you want to make progress, you can type thriving in the comments below here.
Right. Yeah, if you find yourself in a pattern of, only, seeing someone for a few weeks or a few months before it just all falls apart, you might be falling into this pattern and not even recognizing it. But if anything we talked about stood out to you, definitely type thriving down in the comments below. And Andrew and myself would love to reach out and tell you more about ways to get out of this pattern, get out of this habit. And we really appreciate you guys joining us, whether it's live or if you're catching the replay. And we look forward to coming back and joining you again real soon. Vincent says, definitely enjoyed the perspective here. Thanks, man. Lots of love for you. Karen says, yeah, you might be the common denominator. So true, and not even recognizing it. Well, we really appreciate you guys. We love you all, and we look forward to coming back and joining you soon.